Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy, and Zepbound. If you're confused, join the club. Today we're going to talk about these revolutionary weight loss medications, how they work, and how they can help you. I'm Jack Guillory, former wrestler, Army paratrooper, and exercise scientist, now a PA specializing in men's health and sexual medicine. I've had the honor of learning from some of the best. Now I'm here to use the lessons I learned to help you maintain your health, performance, and vitality. This is Strong and Hard. Ozempic and Wegovy are simply two different names for the same medication, semaglutide. These medications are functionally the same. Ozempic was intended for diabetic patients and Wegovy is intended for weight loss. The same applies for Mounjaro and Zepbound. They're simply two different names for the same medication, Tirzepatide, for different indications. Both of these medications work by mimicking hormones produced in the gut that regulate appetite. Semaglutide is the older of the two medications and it regulates a single hormone called GLP-1. Tirzepatide is the newer medication that replicates two hormones, GLP-1 and GIP. Both of these medications are extremely effective. Tirzepatide, with its dual hormone profile, is slightly more effective in clinical studies by about 5%. In my opinion, the biggest difference between these two medications is the side effects. Tirzepatide tends to be a little more tolerable and causes less nausea, constipation, diarrhea, and other GI side effects. But with either medication, side effects can often be avoided by just fine-tuning the dosage and slowly increasing over time. A mistake I commonly see made is strictly following the titration protocol, which indicates increasing the dosage, doubling it every 4 weeks. Patients are often feeling really sick and increasing their dosage despite the side effects. So we avoid this by tailoring the therapy to the patient. Semaglutide is currently about half the price of Tirzepatide at a compounding pharmacy. So unless the patient has insurance coverage from Mounjaro or Zepbound, Tirzepatide, I'll usually start with semaglutide and switch to Tirzepatide only if the patient can't tolerate the side effects. It's important to note that these medications don't force weight loss. What they do is regulate your appetite so that you eat less and then you lose weight. Your weight loss will be directly dependent on how much you eat versus how much you burn. Energy balance. The more rapidly you lose weight, the more muscle mass you're going to lose. To avoid loss of muscle mass, make sure you're getting adequate protein intake and doing resistance training regularly. You can also slowly adjust the dosage so that weight loss isn't so rapid. The loss of muscle mass experienced with these medications is effectively no different than the loss of muscle mass seen in any other type of weight loss. It's all about making good choices with food and exercise. Since these medications were originally developed for diabetics, they were intended to be stayed on long term. Some people argue that obesity is also a disease just like diabetes, and I don't disagree with that, in which case it should be treated long term as well. But there is somewhat of a conundrum when someone's trying to lose weight. What do we do with these medications once you've reached your target weight? I have several approaches. For a patient that doesn't want to stay on these medications long term, I recommend slowly tapering off to avoid rebound hunger and then discontinuing the medication. This is probably a reasonable approach for someone who hasn't historically struggled with appetite and food drive. The second option would be to lower yourself down to a maintenance dose where your appetite is well controlled and your weight is stable. This is probably a good option for people who have historically struggled with their weight. Another reasonable approach for people that have historically struggled with their weight and appetite is to taper completely off the medication and then periodically revisit the medication during times when they would typically gain weight back, such as holidays or stressful periods when they tend to engage in emotional eating. So why is a PA that specializes in sexual medicine treating diabetes and obesity? That's a reasonable question, and the truth is, diabetes is the main killer of erectile function, and obesity is a primary driver of hormone imbalance and sexual dysfunction in both men and women. I commonly have both male and female patients come into my clinic with metabolic dysfunction and even full-blown undiagnosed diabetes that have been struggling with their weight for years. We can start treating these patients with these medications as they implement lifestyle changes, and the weight starts falling off and their life starts changing. Their energy improves, their mood improves, their hormone profile improves naturally, and their sexual function goes up. This has become one of the most effective tools we use in our practice. When used wisely, semaglutide and Tirzepatide are both powerfully effective and safe tools to improve metabolic and cardiovascular health, testosterone production, sexual function, fertility, and more. But they're not magic. You still have to do the work. They need to be paired with a high-quality diet with sufficient protein, regular exercise including resistance training to prevent the loss of muscle mass, and healthy, sustainable habits. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Strong and Hard for more evidence-based tips on how to improve your health, performance, and vitality. As always, get strong, stay hard.